All right, we're back with Don Brzezinski, Director of Cross-Life Counseling here in Vero Beach. You can go to the website, cross-life.org, and you can pick up other episodes that we've done. And what we're doing is we're going through questions, okay? A lot of questions that people have, common questions, people that our listeners have, from past shows. We're talking about a lot of things spiritual here. So, I'll give you one that's a very common one. It's almost seems like one we should have started with in the beginning, right? Because in the beginning, God created, right? So that was a good segue, wasn't it? Come on. How did God create out of nothing?
Well, thanks, Derek, for having me on the show. Some people think that everything kind of happened out of something, took some molecules or some gas or something to begin with. But the reality is, God created out of nothing other than himself.
Okay, so he created out of himself.
Out of himself.
Okay.
And you see, the argument is that he created, if we use the Greek, ek theos, out of himself. And that's the way it has to be expressed. It has to be understood that way. When we understand that all things are derived out of God or from God, as the source, as the origin, it becomes apparent then that all things in the created order, including us as human beings, remain contingent or dependent upon God for their continued operation and substance. You see, one of the reasons Satan doesn't want us to appreciate the creation of the existence of the universe and man is because he's trying to promote this independent perspective that man can be his own point of reference. Man is, as we've been saying, man is a derivative creature. And if you don't understand creation, the fact that you were created and you are dependent upon God for your continued ability to be, and that man is derived, he's derived his own nature, he's derived his life, he's derived his identity, he's derived his behavior. We even derive our immortality from God. And for what purpose? In order to function as God designed, to experience the destiny that God intended. See, the moment that you take creation out of it, you destroy all those things.
Right. Well, that's part of the job of the liar, right? That's what he wants to do, correct?
It's exactly what he wants to do. So God created out of himself everything that is.
So that's why you have that Big Bang theory. You have that out there, so it's basically saying there is no God, and the universe exists just because it exists. So now that I'm here, I'm in control of myself and my own destiny and all that.
Well, again, it's just like Satan told Adam and Eve, you could be your own God.
Right.
You can decide what's good and evil. So if it didn't all start from God, if we weren't all derived from God, then you can decide, Derek, or somebody else can decide. It's a matter of opinion.
Or choice.
Yeah. So what did the phrase in the beginning, God, ... mean? So that kind of fits right in with what you're saying, correct?
Well, yes. In the beginning, God is the point of reference. God is the source.
Right.
In the beginning, God was eternally the Trinity. In the beginning, God was eternally love. In the beginning, God was the lover of his own. He was in loving union with himself. In the beginning, God created man, male and female. Created he them, Genesis 1. So God did not create man because he was lonely or because he needed someone to hang on, as some would have suggested. Remember, God was perfect love in Trinity with plenty of action in himself. God is complete in himself. He doesn't need anything. If God created man because he needed something to fulfill himself, then God's well-being is what? Is dependent on man. May it never be. God forbid, as Paul would say.
Yeah, absolutely.
God created because he is triune love that always seeks others to participate in the love feast of his Trinitarian love. love always involves others. So God took that risk in creating mankind so that man might experience the love of himself.
Okay, now I have a couple questions I think are probably both similar, and that'd be, what's the essence of relationship? And then the next one would be, what is God's desire of us?
Okay, well, the essence of relationship has to start with God.
Right.
True relationship always starts with the person of God, who is a relational God. The triune God is the essence of all proper and perfect interpersonal relationships. So, it's kind of no wonder we don't know how to have relationships. We've tried to do this apart from God. He is the relational 3-in-1 Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. God in relationship with himself has been an eternity of perfect relationship. God in relationship with himself of perfect love and intimacy. The ideal, perfect, the ultimate relationalism of love has been and is eternally present in the triune God. So, what are we going to do? Are we going to once again try to come up with this idea of relationship on our own? No, we're going to derive it from the counterfeit, from Satan. Granted, we didn't understand what relationship was, but who should we look to derive our understanding from? It should be from God. The character of this person, God, is love. So why would we look to anyone other than the person who is love to understand relationship? And this is not to say that
Right.
God has some love to dispense.
Right.
It's not like God's given out love potion number 9.
Right.
It's not something in a bottle that you can sell or that you can
But he
dispense.
is. He's the person of love and the essence of it and the originator of it. So it's kind of like going down to ask the baker how to fix your car, right? why are you going to ask your baker about the car? So if you got something about love, you should be going to the source, not a counterfeit source. But one thing that's interesting when we talk about relationships is I find a lot of people that are unbelievers, they don't understand that. They think of more of religion as, oh, I have to go to church, you have to do this, you have to tithe, you have to do this. They have all the checklist. They don't understand relationship. And then I think, I know for me, once I came in, I come in with a lot of baggage. So, once I accepted the Lord's grace in there. So then my idea of love when I first came in, though, was based on my quote unquote love relationships or based on past hurts in there. So you start, then we kind of talked about that in another question. Then you start thinking God is punitive because you're putting some other false relationship because you put a substitute in there and you're thinking the real thing is like the substitute, which is, again, another lie.
Well, and that's a great way of saying it, Derek. We had no experience in relationship.
Right.
All of our concepts of relationship were distorted. And so when we become one with the person who is love, who is relational, once again, this is all new to us. So, we're kind of like babes in Christ. There isn't any maturity, and that's going to take some time for God to kind of grow us up in himself. And we're going to have to learn to trust him. We're going to have to learn to listen under and participate in a loving relationship. Right. Now, if he is love and if he is the essence of all true relationship, all of our programming, all of our flesh pattern, all of our solical understanding is contrary to that. Because Satan knows nothing about relationships. He's a slave master. He's a slave driver. He's not interested in us. He's a liar. So everything he told us about fulfilling our needs and meeting our needs and helping us to have relationship was based on selfishness and lust and it was untrue. And so as we come to know the one who is love, once again, we have to learn to give ourselves in relationship. We have to choose to participate in relationship. And because we've never done that before, there is there's some time that it takes to develop that relationship, but
Right.
God is eternally committed to us.
And
in that
especially
love.
when you've had a lot of past hurts and stuff we talked about before, you've kind of walled yourself in. You got a fortress around you. So for you to, release that surrender, so to speak, is tough for a lot of people. So, I don't. You deal with that on a daily basis, and we all know it. If we all really ask ourselves, we all know we're hiding hurts and things like that. So, but again, it's from a false, love, a substitute. We've bought into something
It's
that
because
wasn't
of the-
true.
It's because of the lack of
Right.
love. It's because of the lack of relationship. We were created for relationship. That's why God breathed into Adam his own presence and then instructed Adam to eat freely from the tree of the tree of life and not to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. God wanted Adam to not only experience kind of the imputed life of God, but he wanted him to be able to experience the relational manifestation of God's loving character through him.
Right, and then we'll after this commercial break, we're gonna pick up with the other part of that question that we had, and that's what does He desire of us? What does God desire from us? I think we all kind of want to know. So we'll be right back.
Hey, this is Jason with the Sideline, along with Mike Kelly, new owner-operator in your Mall Chick-fil-A location. We have a mission for you. Eat more chicken! It's a simple 6-day-a-week mission.
And if you choose to accept this mission, go to the Indian River Mall Chick-fil-A right now. Remember, they're closed on Sunday.
Disclaimer, no chickens were hurt during the making of this commercial. This message will self-destruct. Now! This is Jason with the Sideline. Listen, you need a bike? You need your bike repaired? Check out Allen's Bicycle Center.
Allen's Bicycle Center, located in old downtown Vero at 2020 Commerce Avenue. They are the largest and oldest established bike shop in the county. 6,000 square feet of bikes and accessories, and 25 years they've been in this town.
Your bike won't go? They'll fix it. They'll make it go. You want a new one? You can buy one there. They got everything you need to put on that bike, make it work. They even got spin class shoes. Check them out. Tell them the Sideline sent you.
All right, we're back here. Again, we're talking with Don Brzezinski, Cross Life Counseling. Go to the site, cross-life.org, and you can get some more information, and you can listen to previous broadcasts that we've had. They've got them on a podcast site. You can find the links right on the site. We're into questions, like common questions or questions that you actually have. And again, if you have questions, you can also call into Don. It's 772-563-0430, or email don@cross-life.org, and we can try to answer your questions, and we'll try to do some of them on the show if you want. Again, where we picked up last, as he said, what is God's desire for us? I mean, that's kind of a core question. That's really what we need to know. When we ask all questions, we're kind of like, God, what do you want from me?
Boy, there's 101 different answers to that one, isn't there?
Yeah, there's probably a lot of money being made on some books on that, and but we want to know really what it is. What's the truth of that?
Well, the truth is that God does not want anything we might offer him.
So, see, that's going to be hard for the person that's especially that A-type personality, who's got his ducks in a row, and he knows his stuff, and he wants to do stuff. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah, and he wants nothing from you that you
Right.
might be able to offer. Whether that might be service or your dedication
Right.
or your commitment or your obedience or your sacrifice or your moral conformity to whatever you believe that he wants you to conform to, et cetera, et cetera.
So basically, he doesn't need us to perform for him.
He doesn't need anything.
Right.
All right, he is God. God desires only, and this is what's so critical, God desires only the availability of our hearts and lives, so that he can pour his love and complete sufficiency of grace in and through us. That's what God's desire is. That's why he created you.
And then we talked about this before, and what you're going to find out is all those things are just going to happen. The service
Without
will
you
just
trying to
happen
do it.
without you trying to initiate it,
Exactly.
or hey, I need to make a few calls so I can get involved, or
That's it.
I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that.
It's the lack of relationship
right.
that causes us to get fixated on stuff. You know, we try to, if something's broke, we want to try to fix it. So we think, okay, well, maybe I'm not dedicated enough, or maybe I'm not committed enough, or maybe I'm not sacrificial enough. So if I do that, then maybe I can fix what's broke. Look, what's nothing's really broke to start with. What we need is we need to allow God to reveal himself to us and experience the loving intimacy of his presence, and allow him to reveal to us what we can't do for ourselves. And as we get caught up in his presence, practicing the presence of God, experiencing his presence, participating and saying yes to whatever, and his expression, his character, his love is always going to be related to other people. And so as we begin to are willing, we become teachable, we become available, then we will naturally experience all those things that we got so frustrated trying to do on our own that we couldn't.
Right. And again, we talked about this before, and I think that's the danger is there no pride or boasting in the fact that you made yourself willing, because he's the one that initiated it, and he's the one that gave you the ability to choose to do that.
It's at this very point, Derek, where I try to caution folks not to get sidetracked by what we might call Christian religion. And that's an oxymoron, because Christianity is not religion.
Right.
Religion is not Christianity. But religion insists on saying or doing, something, just something, rather than simply availability of our hearts.
Right.
That's so hard for people because, well, the question I'm always asked, well, how do I do that? How do I do that? Just, okay, tell me how to do that. Well, God is a very present help in time of need. And, we're not aware of his presence. We don't acknowledge his presence. We treat him like he's not real, like he's not our life. If the God of the universe, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit has come to indwell you, and he has created you that you might experience himself, then we might have to quiet our hearts long enough to listen to what he's up to in us and what he's wanting to accomplish through us to be able to participate with him in his activity.
See, that's kind of liberating. There's a lot of these things that you talk about is as soon as you realize there's nothing I can produce or I can do, you can stop trying.
Exactly. God does not require you to do something.
So for a lot of people, I mean, that's a huge burden. Like, I don't have to volunteer for every committee. I don't have to do this. I don't have to do this to be right with God. I just have to be. I just have to.
When my sole purpose is being available to a present God who loves me and wants to have an intimate relationship with me, and all I necessarily have to be concerned about is with him as the point of reference of my life in the context where I find myself. Wow. I'm interested in that kind of a relationship. Right.
And again, it's totally liberating and totally gives you a new perspective on things, especially when you start reading the Bible and if you read it from that perspective, things start clicking a little more. At least they did for me.
It might
anyway.
sound more like a love letter than a performance for a
checklist. Yeah. Okay. And we did talk about this one time, and this is something we definitely do not have time to go into now about the people in the Bible talking about a list of do's. We call them the imperatives, and again,
we talked about, as a little refresher, which you can go back and listen to this. We talked about there's over 1,220 imperatives in the New Covenant.
Okay.
But the imperative is always dependent upon an indicative. And the indicative of those imperative commands is the person of Jesus Christ.
Right.
In other words, God is always the one who will be the means of you carrying out whatever he initiates in your heart.
Right.
So you're always going to take his lead. Come unto me, all you who are burdened and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. He is that rest. He is your life.
Yeah, and we definitely do not have time to finish that right now. You're just going to have to go back again. You can go to cross-life.org, and you can find those resources and listen in, because it's fantastic. Again, it's another thing it's going to blow your mind. So with what little time we have, I'm going to ask a question. This is kind of a big question, though, and it's, what are the two main, is it characteristics of the world? Or
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
What are two characteristics? That's what somebody
Yeah.
was asking. Well, first of all, ever since the fall of Adam, humanity has been characterized by two things: discontent and hopelessness.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, we all
That's like
have.
one big one.
Yeah, the world longs to be set free from discontent and hopelessness. And see, that's what Satan's using. He's using that discontent and hopelessness to cause us to buy into every trick that he has of fleshliness.
Can
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to ask you a question. In that, since we just came out talking about we don't have to perform, but yeah, that's where a lot of us have come from. I'm doing this, I'm volunteering here, or I've done this checklist, checklist, but then we always end up back into the same, what were the two you just called, hopelessness and discontent.
hopelessness.
And then
Yeah.
we keep going, and that's my favorite thing you always say is, how's that working out for
how's
you?
that working for you?
Yeah,
we
'cause-
get burned out, don't we?
Yeah, we get burned out. I mean, there might be a
Foolish
time
face.
where we seem like it's gone that way.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's so true. So when we talk about hopelessness, well, what's the opposite? Hope is not a wishful thinking or yearning of what might possibly be true or possibly not true. No, hope is the confident expectation of experiencing. Now, here we go. See, this is not theoretical. We're not just talking about theoretical things here.
Right.
We're talking about experiential relationship with the Most High God. So hope is the confident expectation of experiencing all that God has for us. And the basis for this kind of hope, this kind of confidence, is always the person of Christ Jesus, who is our hope. 1 Timothy 1:1. The Bible declares that we have been born again to a living hope by the resurrection of Jesus Christ. 1 Peter 1:3. Having been invited and drawn into the participation of God's love relationship, 1 Timothy 6:16, and allows us to participate in God's triune love. You see, this is all initiated by God. All we need to do is say yes. So everything in the world is vanity. Who said that? King Solomon, one of the richest, famous, on top of the world guys,
Yeah,
right?
if you think you have stuff, he got you beat.
And what did he say in Ecclesiastes? He said, "Thus I considered all my activities which my hands had done, and the labor which I had exerted, and behold, all was vanity and striving after wind, and there was no profit under the sun." That's what you can expect as the characteristics of this world: discontent and hopelessness.
Yeah, nobody likes those two words. That's for sure. But yet we sure go in a big circle performing to end up back at that point.
Unfortunately, we do, until we come to the realization of the one who is love.
Society of performance-based.
That's it, 100%. And but that's all our time. Again, we invite you to go to cross-life.org, and you can pick up some more resources if you have more questions until the next time. And I'd like to thank Don and from Jason and I here at the Sideline Radio Show. It was a pleasure talking spiritual things with you, and we'll see you next time.